And we're back. This is going to be my reaction to Manchester United's transfer deadline day, as well as wrapping up all my thoughts on the transfer window in general. And look, we had 4 players come in yesterday. We had a fair few leave as well. But all in all, I don't think it was a particularly good day for Manchester United. And also, the window as a whole, I think, could have been a hell of a lot better. But we'll start off with deadline day itself. Like I said, 4 signings came through the door. We were able to sign Johnny Evans on a permanent basis. He was obviously playing with the club for the last couple of months anyway, but he has now signed a 1-year deal. We signed Bayandir, the goalkeeper from Fenerbahce. He is set to be our number 2. And of course, with Andre Onana set to go to the African Cup of Nations in January, he will be expected to play a big part in the Premier League in that month, as well as possibly playing in cup games and potentially in the Champions League at times as well. We also were able to get Sergio Reguilon on loan from Spurs. My reaction to that was in the video I posted a couple of days ago, so make sure you check that one out. And finally, we signed Sofian Amrabat, the player that we had been apparently touting all window. Why it wasn't done much sooner, I don't know. But we were able to get him on loan with an obligation to buy next summer. And to be honest, I think that was actually a really good deal, but we'll get to that shortly. In terms of outgoings, Mason Greenwood has gone to Getafe on loan. We have loaned out Alvaro Fernandez to Granada, and then we have sold the other young Spanish fullback, Gerardo. He has gone to Espanyol. So that was the business that got done yesterday. I think my biggest problem with yesterday is not the business that was done, it was the business that wasn't done. And we sit here now, the day after the window is closed, and we still have Harry Maguire, we still have Scott McTominay, we still have Eric Bailly, we still have Donny van der Beek. 4 players that the club, in particular the manager, wanted to sell or at very least offload in this transfer window, and all 4 players are still at the football club. Now, we know that there has been interest from Turkey and Saudi Arabia in Eric Bailly, and we know there has been interest from Turkey for Donny van der Beek, and both of those players could still go to those places as their transfer windows are still open for a bit longer. But to not get those players out of the door, to keep them on the wage bill for potentially another 4 or 5 months at least, we're talking until January, that's a real failure in the club's backroom and transfer policy staff, because we needed better recruitment in this window, and due to the fact that we couldn't offload essentially what is dead weight in the eyes of the manager, it's affected our transfer policy and who we can actually bring in. And that would then bring me to what I was going to say about the transfer window as a whole, which is I don't think we've actually sufficiently strengthened enough, in my opinion. Now, obviously, I really like the signing of Amrabat. I have to stress that. I said about it earlier. I think that's a really, really good deal. 10 million initial loan, 20 million next summer, and 5 million add-ons. So 35 million for a player that had a phenomenal World Cup, has been a real star in the Serie A over the last couple of years, had interest from other big clubs around Europe. Liverpool were interested in him, Barcelona were interested in him. And from day one, it was apparent he wanted to come to Manchester United. So I'm absolutely thrilled that we've got it done. Obviously, he's not massively proven. He's been playing for Fiorentina. As much as I say he has been a star in Serie A, he's been playing for Fiorentina, so he's not had a lot of Champions League experience. But like I said, he had a phenomenal World Cup. And let's just hope that he can bring those sort of performances into the Manchester United midfield, which desperately needed bolstering. Other than that, I'm just a little bit disappointed with what happened yesterday. The signing of Reguilon and then the loaning out of Alvaro Fernandez, I think is an absolute insult and goes against, quite frankly, everything that Manchester United stands for. Our whole ethos has always been to develop young players and integrate them into the first team. We have a young Spanish left-back who was Young Player of the Season at Preston North End in the Championship last season. We have injury problems at left-back. He is ready-made, in my opinion, to step into that first-team position, because if you're not going to give them a chance now, when are you ever going to give them a chance? And instead, we loan out the young Spanish left-back to bring in a underperforming, older Spanish left-back. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like I say, I think that really undermines the values of the football club, and I don't know if that was a club decision or if it was an Erik ten Hag decision. I really hope it's not an Erik ten Hag decision, but I have to say, from what I've seen of Ten Hag, as much as I like the style of play he's looking to implement, he really has been quick to ditch, in my opinion, a lot of Manchester United academy players. Mengi went to Luton Town in the last couple of days. Like I say, we've sold Gerardo to Espanyol. All these players that we brought in with the intention of integrating them into the first team. I know Mason Greenwood is a slightly different scenario for multiple reasons, but he has now, of course, been loaned out again as well. So we're sort of stifling our young talent and then bringing in players that Erik ten Hag has worked with before because he knows and he trusts them. Now, like I say, that can mean one of two things. That either means that Erik ten Hag has such high standards that he believes our current crop of players just aren't up to it, or it means that Erik ten Hag is over-reliant on players that he's already worked with. And that would be a major concern for me if that is the case, because that says to me that he's incapable of actually developing young players into the style of player that he wants. And he just wants to use the players that he's used before because he's comfortable with them and he knows how to get the best out of them, rather than being a good enough coach to actually develop the talent that we have available to us into the type of player that he wants them to be. So that would be a real concern about Erik ten Hag as our manager if that is the case. But as things stand like right now, I don't want to say that because it could just be a club decision to have that sort of thing in there, and Ten Hag's like, well, I know him, he sort of fits our budget, I know I can get something out of him, let's go for him, rather than, just saying, well, we'll give this guy a go. Now, granted, he has given players a go, he's given Garnacho a go, he looks like he really likes Kobbie Mainoo, but other than that, young players are not really getting a look in at Manchester United at the moment, and it's a real shame, in my opinion, to see so much young talent be sent away while we just bring in players that don't really improve the squad. And this is what I say in terms of the signings that we've actually made this summer. I like the 2 goalkeeper signings. I have to say that. I said when I did my video at the start of the year, or the start of the transfer window, I wanted De Gea and Henderson both out, and I wanted 2 new goalkeepers in. The targets at the time, I didn't get. Raya went to Arsenal, and Jack Butland I'd have just kept. He ended up going to Scotland. We've brought in Onana, we've brought in Bayandir. I'm actually really happy with both of those. I think they are improvements on the goalkeeper situation. Mason Mount looks like he's already failed. Now, it's only been a few games and now he's picked up an injury, but that experiment doesn't look like it's worked out very well. Rasmus Højlund is raw. He's unproven. I hope that he performs well, because if he doesn't start performing well immediately, that 70 million price tag is going to be a real concern. As I say, Amrabat's yet to make his debut, so I'm hoping that he can be a good performer. Reguilon, I think, is just a real waste of wages money over the course of a 4 or 5 month period, who's only in the team until Shaw and Malacia come back, but we're going to cover his full 120,000 a week. To me, that's a waste of money and just not really necessary. Johnny Evans coming in tells me that he still has no interest in playing Harry Maguire. Otherwise, why would he bring in Johnny Evans at all? And it also shows that we just did not have the finances available to us to sign the likes of Todibo or a couple of others we were linked with. Obviously, Kim Min-jae at the start of the window was his primary target. We've missed out on both of those. And Harry Maguire stays on, again, astronomical wages, and he's not even going to play. So I don't think it's been the best of windows. Like I say, I think the way you've got to look at it is this. Has the squad as a whole improved? I would say just about, potentially, maybe. I think it's a slight improvement on last year. The difference is, if you compare that to the teams that are around us and are competing for us for the same positions and potentially challenging for a league title, although based on the way we've started this season, I don't think we are, have we improved as much as they've improved? So have we actually closed the gap, or have they increased their gap on us? And I have to say, you look at some of the signings that Arsenal have made, some of the signings that City have made, some of the signings that Liverpool have made, some of the signings that Chelsea have made, even some of the signings that Spurs have made. Yes, they've lost Harry Kane, but I think they've more than aptly used that money to actually improve their squad overall as a whole. And I have to say that of the big 6, I know the likes of Newcastle and Aston Villa and that have been pushed into that equation as well. I think all of those teams, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, Villa and Newcastle, I think all 7 of those teams have had better transfer windows than us. And that is the real problem. And we've spent a lot of money in this window as well. And I'm not convinced as things stand right now that we've brought in the quality necessary to compete. But it remains to be seen. Like I say, I'm pleased that we got the players that we wanted on deadline day to come in. I'm disappointed with the young talent that's been allowed to leave, either permanently or on loan. And I'm even more disappointed that we've held on to some players that we just did not need on the club's wage bill. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here now. As I say, very, very mixed emotions about what's happened over the last few days. But it just comes down to, at the end of the day, the ownership again. And we're still here. We're still under a Glazer ownership. And we don't have the Qatari owners that I certainly wanted that would help bolster our chances of bringing in the sort of players that we needed to bring in. But we shall see. Long, long season ahead. The Champions League group stage fixtures have just been announced, and it looks like we're playing Bayern Munich away in the opening fixture. At least that means we won't have to play them again until the final fixture, but couldn't ask for a rougher start to the Champions League campaign after what's already been a reasonably rough start to the Premier League campaign. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the club has done enough business to see us into the sort of positions that we want to be in, but as things stand right now, I'm not so sure. Let me know all those thoughts down in the comments. Drop a like on this video if you've made it all the way to the end of it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I do all sorts of Manchester United reactions to various bits of news and obviously all of the matches. So if you do not see me beforehand, I will see you for my reaction to the Arsenal-Manchester United game tomorrow evening. Thank you very much for watching.